Now, specifically, what I am calling augmented characters, you might see in some of these classic services like Google Now or Facebook M, which is actually using some human beings, or Microsoft Cortana. But this is sort of a quick and dirty definition. But an augmented character is both a creative and a technical presence. It's a I'm sorry, I've got some jet lag, so I'm having to rely more heavily on my notes. But it's a technical and a narrative creation that tries to understand someone's context, that actually reads data to make a judgment about what do you want right now. And it does that so that it can converse and offer suggestions or take actions to help people reach their goals. I'm sure people have used something like CityMapper or any other application. You open it up because you have a purpose. Now, you might be watching Netflix as a purpose of being entertained or even passing time, but those types of design principles are being applied outside of traditional information and entertainment markets and being put directly into technology, to where we want to create characters that are going to engage people, but also help them accomplish their goals, which may be, how to catch the bus better, or how to shop, or where to park. And so some of these characters almost mimic characters that we meet in real life, like the parking attendant or the person at the checkout stand. And for the purposes of today, I've split augmented characters into 3 big buckets. This is not exhaustive, but it's useful for our purposes. First, there are chatbots, which we'll go into later. There's also virtual assistants, which we're getting accustomed to. I mean, Siri is a normal part of U.S. English right now. If you say, call Siri, talk to Siri, people know what you're talking about. And then finally, there are robots, which is one of the things that I'm most partial to. So we're using these to participate in modern life. Did anyone grow up on a farm in a rural environment? Raise some hands. Yeah. Okay. What's a typical activity? What's a typical activity from where you grew up? Feeding, planting, getting up early as hell. Right. Okay. How about yourself? I saw your hand come up. What are some classic activities of a rural lifestyle? Depends on the season. Right. So, right, you're harvesting, sowing. If I was a hunter, I would be tracking, killing, skinning, gutting, all those pleasant tasks. And so as people live in a particular context or a particular culture, there is a clutch of activities. You cannot call yourself a professional unless you're engaged in some way or another with a lot of these activities. And what a lot of development around augmented characters is how do we enable people to participate in these types of activities in a way that is more natural, more human, and more delightful, quite frankly. Because if there's anything that's been missing from a lot of technology products, it's been that last bit. They've been effective, they've even been efficient, but they haven't really delighted people, with very few exceptions. Within these activities, within these characters, again, a true market presentation of how we use augmented characters, that's a separate presentation in its own right, so I'm not going to be throwing out a whole bunch of numbers. But if we think about where are a lot of the opportunities, and I find this both in my university work at the University of Washington, Seattle, and then also in some of my consulting, education and healthcare are gigantic, because that question of what do we teach the kids, especially as artificial intelligence and a data-oriented lifestyle becomes more prevalent, we're finding that we've got 21st century problems and we're using 19th century methods to teach. At the same time, as in many European countries and also in the U.S., we have a rapidly aging population. People are actually trying to age in place, stay in their homes, which means there's going to be a huge injection of technology into the home for elder care and helping people manage chronic conditions. And then naturally there's always work and commerce. How do we make a living? How do we find what we need? And so these are some of the main buckets that augmented characters are being deployed in new products and services.